Anytime you beg another man to set you free, you'll never be free. Freedom is something that you have to do for yourself.
Okay, so this is the second time I made this video. I kind of didn't present my thoughts the way I would have liked to in the first recording of it, so I'm redoing it. Yeah, so BSV and Me, part one. This is going to be like a little series that I do every few months, I guess. I'll give a little update about what I think and feel about what's going on with the BSV network. I think I checked earlier today and the market cap was sitting somewhere just over like 500 million. So like $500 million, which is not the metric I would use to measure my excitement. I mean, if it was, I would be pretty disappointed with everything right now. But I think that's also a good thing because, I mean, the whole promise of BSV is that it could scale to an extremely high degree to millions of transactions per second. And I think everything is kind of on the cusp of going online to make that happen on BSV right now with Terranode. And generally, I think the lack of interest in BSV is kind of a good thing. And, sorry, there's a bug here. I think the lack of interest in BSV is something that it's ironic and poetic. Yeah, sorry, I think it's kind of ironic and poetic and honestly a little funny that the chain with the most potential is being the most ignored, I think. Yeah, so I think a lot of people in the BSV community find it disheartening that the price is pretty much near an all-time low, that the market cap is practically around $500 million, which is pretty miserable. I think that's actually hilarious. Like, it's, when you think about it, it's actually pretty funny. And there's this one particular statement that Elon Musk made many years ago about Dogecoin, saying that if Dogecoin were to become the world's kind of go-to currency, that it would be the most ironic or kind of humorous outcome.
Summary of Occam's razor. The simplest answer is the most likely one. Then there's a friend of mine came up with a variant on that the most ironic outcome is the most likely one. And then I have a variant on that, which is the most entertaining outcome is the most likely one. So if that is true, then the most ironic and entertaining outcome would be that the cryptocurrency that was started as a joke to make fun of cryptocurrencies ends up being the leading cryptocurrency. That would be the most ironic outcome.
But really, if you look at the state of things right now, I think the bigger joke, the thing that would be more ironic and hilarious would be BSV taking off. And I think there's just kind of a humorous, I don't know, there's something humorous and poetic about it, that the chain with the most potential to scale is being the most ignored. And it's kind of clown worldish how it's being ignored so people can speculate on chains that don't work, that don't scale, that don't really serve any purpose. And really that kind of ties into what I wanted to talk about primarily in this video, which is that Bitcoin in its original design was so threatening that they had to psyop people out of it. And threaten people out of it and coerce people out of it and do a whole lot of psychological games to make people give up the idea. And it's been working really well, but I think it's not going to work well enough. There's still too many of us in the ecosystem that see the potential of what's there and want to keep using it. And I think for that reason alone, I'm the most optimistic I've ever been. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen quickly. I actually don't think it's going to happen quickly. I think it's going to take a long time. I think it's going to take a lot of people actually doing things. I think there's a lot of people sitting on their hands saying we've already won because, hey, if it works, you know, we have the best shit. But that doesn't pan out in reality. Like, if people don't actually get off their asses and use it to do things or build things on it, then what's the point? And I think there's a lot of people who wrongfully want Satoshi Nakamoto to swoop in and save their bags. And I understand there's a lot of people that are holding BSV in losses. I understand that. But I mean, if you really understood what you were investing in, you should have understood the threat that it poses to the established financial, political, technological order of things. And you shouldn't have expected that to be an easy transition, to be perfectly honest. Like, it's going to be resisted by the entrenched powers that be, I think, as long as possible. And then I think they'll have to use it. It's just my opinions, but I think they'll put off using it as long as possible because it's more advantageous for them to use the existing system. There's more opportunities for them to exploit people in the existing system. There's more opportunities for profit by exploiting people through the existing system. And they're not going to want to adopt a more efficient system that makes it harder to exploit people until they absolutely have to maintain a competitive edge or to maintain the market share that they have in the marketplace, in whatever field that is. Whether that be healthcare or tech or finance, all of these things that will be impacted by the real development of Web3. And really, when I think of what's going to happen here, if I just want to give my outlook from the network, I think you're going to have Terranode come online completely. And I think you're going to have a bunch of different projects that show off how useful that is and what you can do when you actually enable massive scaling. And I think there'll just be little projects one by one. I think things like CertiHash, little projects like that, one at a time will pop up. And they'll make the network their home to do whatever they would need to do, in that case, cybersecurity solution. And I don't know, I think you'll just have this growth of businesses and projects on the BSV network that eventually, over the course of time and over the course of these things staying, I think a lot of these things will fail. I think that's just the nature of this, is that you're going to have a huge failure rate of projects. But you'll have a couple that stick around, and those ones that stick around will eventually add up. You'll have one, and then we'll have another, and then there'll be a small group of them, and then there's going to start to be a big group of them, and then over time, that's going to potentially change the mining reward dynamic to make it far more profitable to mine on BSV. And really, I think that's what everyone within the network should be aiming to do. And I think there's too many people still who want these old Satoshi wallets that are moving coins around to be Craig, and for all these like iceberg addresses that have popped up to be linked to Craig, and for Craig to come in and save the day and save their bags. But I mean, truly, if you were Craig, would you want to do that right now? If you hold all this BSV, BTC, and BCH, do you really want to do that right now? Because I mean, if I was him, I'd be thinking that you're just gonna, if you pulled all that liquidity out of BTC and put it into BSV, do you not just expect the BSV bag holders to be waiting to extract it? Because I mean, if there's nothing really happening on the network right now, I wouldn't do it now. I would wait until after there's some development, after there's some demonstration of Terranode's mass scaling capabilities, and then maybe I would do that. But I'm not just going to do that and dump my money into a community that's looking to extract that liquidity in the form of gains, because I mean, there's a lot of people sitting on losses, and again, like, if it adds value to the network, sure, but I don't think he's gonna, whoever Satoshi is, wants to do that, even if he supports BSV until the time is right, and I don't think that's there yet. I think if there's potentially a lot of projects that are just waiting for Terranode to go live to demonstrate things, maybe. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I think it's going to take time. So, I don't know. About a year ago, I announced that I was going to start learning to build on BSV, and it's taken me a lot longer to get where I want to be than I thought. So that's not there yet. Yeah, it's going to be a slow go. And that's okay. I was kind of expecting that. I mean, I'm busy. Callie. So, anyways, I think that's the next thing I kind of wanted to touch on, is that for my own development, what I'm thinking of, having been looking in the space from the perspective of someone learning to develop for about a year now. BSV has been held down through deception. Like, the original Bitcoin protocol has been suppressed through deception. There's a lot of mindfuckery happening in the crypto space. There's a lot of psychological manipulation to get people to pour their money and attention and really just dump their energy into this black hole that's not really going to make any systemic change. It's really just become another speculative market for people to gamble on. And where there is potential to make things of change, it's being ignored. So you can only achieve that through deception. And I mean, there's a lot of parallels that I'd like to draw between BSV and Canada. I think that if you look around, people who are Canadian, if you have Canadian viewers here, kind of understand that there's like a psychological war that's going on against the Canadian public. I think certain people recognize that. There's a lot of people who kind of live in denial of that, but if you look closely, it's there. Like, you can't really deny that. Just look at how our mass media works and operates, and yeah, just look closely, it's there. You can't really argue. But I think that's one of those things where if something is threatening, it's better to defeat something through deception than by force. I think that's sort of a strategy that's utilized against. I mean, it's just a general strategy that's used in all different facets of society. But I think the threat that the original Bitcoin protocol posed to big finance and big tech and all these different big industries that have built up the modern financial system and tech ecosystem in a way that benefits them in a centralized way. They don't want to move on to this next paradigm, so they've been psyoping us out of it. And I think that takes a lot of forms that people don't expect. I think there's a lot of bad actors who have infiltrated the communities that are threatening. So I do think there are a lot of bad actors within the BSV community. And over the course of the last year, learning to develop on BSV, initially I kind of went into that with the idea that I may want to pursue employment within the ecosystem, find a job as a developer. But sort of early on into that, I kind of gave up that idea, and I would really just rather build things on my own. I don't really want to partner with anyone. Not interested in doing that. Don't trust anyone in the space. And it's probably just because I haven't met people in the space. When I first found out about how our banking system worked, I went out of my way to confront politicians, to go and meet the people who were talking about how it was a system to enslave us. And then I went and talked to the politicians themselves, and kind of just, I like to feel out someone face to face. I don't like to judge someone through the internet. I like to actually get a feel for someone face to face. You get a much better vibe off of someone, especially when you're confronting them on something serious. Like, hey, why are you borrowing money when you don't have to in our names, so that we have to pay all this money back to these banks when we don't have to, plus interest? So it kind of seems like you're just forcing us to work for them. I mean, when you call people out on their bullshit, you can often see through their fucking lies. Although some people are really good at that. Especially, I think a lot of these people who are infiltrators are like legit spies. They're trained in psychology and how to manipulate people. And they come into the spaces and that's what they do. And I think they lay dormant in these communities until there's an opportunity for them to strike, I guess, for them to manipulate the community in a certain way. I think in BSV, there's a particular problem. I think there's a lot of people who are bad actors who pretend that they're acting in good faith. I'm not going to call any of these people out. Just use your own discernment and judgment and consider the possibility that a lot of those people that we look up to in the space are agents working against the interests of the community and of Bitcoin in its original design as a whole. And I don't know, I think there's a bit of a naivete that thinking that we've already won because we have the best technology. You have to wrap your head around the forces that are at play to maybe stop that and prevent that, and how they might use the tools at their disposal to slow down progress on this front. And again, if you've been paying attention for any considerable length of time, if you've been in the crypto market for any length of time, you've seen that. I mean, yeah, if you're paying attention, you've seen it. If you're just watching the charts, doing that kind of analysis, then I hope you've been successful, but I mean, that's not what I'm paying attention to. That's not really why I'm excited for BSV. I don't really care about the price potential, to be honest. I think the price potential for it is huge. I think it'd be kind of naive for me to say that I don't think there'll be a good price return. But I think it might take a really long time. I don't think a Craig is going to come in and save everybody's bags. I don't think that's going to happen in October. It could. I would be happy if it did. But I would also, as someone who wants to learn to develop, who's learning to develop on the network, appreciate the time to learn more so that I can be to make myself more serviceable to the community, essentially, so I can just be more useful. Because really, I think those of us who want to see BSV succeed don't just cheer for Craig to do it. Like, go out and build something, make something useful, or like, I don't know, if you have an idea, pitch it to a developer who might be able to make it happen. It's something you don't want to do yourself. I don't know. I'm sitting on a bag of ideas, and I think there's a lot of projects that are just waiting to be launched on BSV. I think there's a lot of devs who wanted to see a successful outcome for Craig at the trial, and now I think that's what people are doing. They're just waiting for the time to launch a project on BSV. I think there's a bunch of things that are just sitting on the back burner, waiting to go live when the time is right. And I think it's just a matter of time. If everyone is actually willing to commit to doing that and to actually continue working. So, I mean, I'm willing to work on this for a long time. Like, I have certain short-term and long-term plans for myself and my family. And I've worked this into my long-term plan to learn how to develop on BSV. If it takes 10 years for me to get really good at it, I'm willing to devote that time. I'm disheartened by the people who have been building in the space and moved on to other things, but I appreciate their need to support themselves, and really that factored into my own decision that I should be doing this just as a side thing rather than doing it as my main thing, at least for now. And especially when I don't feel like I've earned any sort of employment within the space. Like, if I want to work within the space, I want to work within the space as a developer, and yeah, I'm not at the spot where I'm good enough to want to claim a role for that anyway. So, like, vibe coding is cool. It's helping me learn, but also kind of convinces you that you can run before you've learned to walk. So I'm someone who I want to really know what I'm doing. I don't want to release something and it be amateur hour. I want it to be pretty good. I want it to be professional. Yeah, I don't know. The deception thing in BSV is huge, though. I can't emphasize this enough, that I think a need here and there's a desire here to shake people out of the network. And I think it's been working successfully. I think that's why the market cap is 500 million. I think those of us who remain kind of see that. But I also think that there's a select few who are just like paying way too much attention to what Craig might be doing, or those Satoshi coins. Like, I don't know. I just don't think it's Craig. I personally don't think it's Craig. That's just my opinion. I feel like it's too cryptic. I also think that it's something that would just get the attention of people who want to speculate on such things, and it wouldn't get the interest of people who are in it to build stuff on the network. So, I mean, it could be a tip of the hat, a kind of signal that this is what's going on, but I think it's more likely a troll. Because really, if it was Craig, why would he go through the effort of doing all this? Maybe do one little thing. But it seems like a lot of effort, and I feel like it's an effort being made to troll people. And I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe it's Craig who wants to shake people out. Maybe he's going to do all this and then wait a few months and then act. And then shake out all the people who are speculating on him doing something in October. Because again, I think that would be the most hilarious outcome. And I think there's an element of truth to what Elon Musk said about how the most ironic or the most funny outcome could be what happens. And as someone who's just paid attention in the space from the beginning, I think that actually would be BSV taking over. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. That would be the most hilarious outcome. And actually, if it was Craig doing all that, that would be the most hilarious outcome. I just don't think that's it. So, I don't know. I would find it hilarious. I would probably laugh nonstop for about 10 minutes if it turned out to be Craig and he just dumped all of his BTC into BSV. Flipped the market cap by destroying everyone's confidence in BTC and vindicating himself as Satoshi. But again, I don't think the time is right for that. I think it has to happen a little bit more organically. At least you have to demonstrate the Terra node scaling. Have a couple cool projects that utilize it to demonstrate a proof of concept for something new and interesting that makes it clear that this is the model for doing things in blockchain. Yeah, I don't know. That's just how I think. I could be wrong, but that's just my perspective from right now. I'm curious to see what they do. I mean, there's one thing I didn't mention here. There's this one scene in Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn, or The Adventures of Huck Finn. I can't remember which story it's in. Anyways, the part where he's whitewashing the fence.
I'm going into swimming, I am. But of course you'd rather work.
What do you call work?
Or ain't that work?
Well, all I know is it suits Tom Sawyer.
Say, let me whitewash a little.
Think I'd let a dude whitewash?
Oh, come on now. I'd let you if you was me.
No. If it were the inside, I wouldn't mind. And Aunt Polly wouldn't. But she's awful particular about the outside.
Oh, shucks. I'd be careful. I'll give you the rest of my apple.
Well, here, no. I'm afeard.
And I'll give you this, too.
Ain't that a humdinger? What is it?
It's a knob off a brass door knocker.
All my life I wanted a knob off a brass door knocker. Well, here. Quick, before I change my mind. Don't tell Aunt Polly. I ain't seen a thing last time.
where he convinces people, his friends or neighborhood boys, to do his chores for him as if it's fun. You ever notice how in The Wizard of Oz, the people that are said to possess magical abilities get other people the ordinary people, to do their bidding for them?
And that's the object of emotional branding, to fill the empty places where non-commercial institutions like schools and churches might have once done the job. Brands become more than just a mark of quality. They become an invitation to a longed-for lifestyle, a ready-made identity.
So as long as man has not got a center, as long as he's, divorced from his own center, not aware about how his consciousness is being manipulated, he will remain open to this kind of manipulation. Fantastic comment on this in Lord of the Rings. They didn't bring it out in the movie, except in one very short line, which is hard to miss, but in the book they emphasize it very, very prominently, that when they approaching the wizard Saruman, who's a character in the story who's basically was a good man turned evil, that the other wizards in the know, or the other elders in the know, continually warn anyone who should approach Saruman to beware his voice.
The white wizard approaches.
To beware his use of language, because that alone will hypnotize you, and no matter how strong you are, you'll be pulled into his web.
Do not let him speak. He will put a spell on us.
I just loved that. I thought that was fantastic, a very powerful image. They did bring it out a little bit in the movie, but this whole idea of the seduction of a man's voice and the power of charisma, and the ability, and of course the media uses this a great deal. And you have, this ties back into the whole concept of the god Mercury. If anyone's familiar with the symbolism of Hermes and Mercury and Thoth, and the earlier version of all of these gods was Ogma from the Celtic tradition, and even Hern being the origin of the word Herm or Hermes. It's all Irish Druidic. Those gods were the gods of language. Those gods were the gods of words. Those gods were the gods of communication, with the understanding that communication by words is a phenomenally powerful and important weapon of both the good and the bad side. Interestingly, Ogma, the Celtic god, his other two traits was strength. They taught symbolically like this. Okay, so Ogma is the god of language, but he's also the god of strength. Yes, because language is strength. Language is a form of power. Man who knows how to manipulate language and words is strong. What was his title, his name? They call him the Honey Mouth. Ogma the Honey Mouth, because, and I guess there's even Scandinavian, I think Loki had the power of that, almost a hypnotic, ability with words.
Interesting observations, right? But I think that's really what's happened. I think there's been this massive psychological warfare in the Bitcoin and crypto space to psyop people out of the ideas that actually empower them, so that you will whitewash the fence for BlackRock and Blockstream. Put your money into the projects that they've manipulated and crippled, right? Get your Bitcoin ETF and your crippled Bitcoin that can't scale, your BTC. That's what they've made popular. There's billions of dollars pouring into that shit, and there's $500 million in BSV right now. If you were looking at price, it'd be a horrible time to be in BSV, but I mean, that's how they've taken our eyes off the prize in a big way, and I think even within the BSV space, there's an interest in doing that, where people are greedy and they want to accumulate more for themselves. And this is the lesson I drive into my own children all the time, but I'm going to put it here, the scene from Vikings where I think it's King Egbert is teaching his son or his grandson or a relative of his, someone in his family, he's going to take the throne one day, telling him never to let other people do their thinking for them.
No. You keep saying you understand, but you obviously don't. I've just been drinking water while you were drinking the wine. Don't ever let yourself be influenced by other people. Especially people like me. Always think your own thoughts and act on them.
I think there's a lot of people that are going to regret having given up on BSV because of everything that's transpired, because of the Craig Wright drama being so front of mind and so prominently the topic of discussion within the space for so long, which I think was an inevitable thing. But again, I think there's a lot of fuckery and manipulation in the space. I think there's a lot of bad actors masquerading as good actors. I don't trust anybody within the space whatsoever, largely because I haven't met them or felt them out for myself. And I would love to get to meet some people, because I know there are some really good people in the community. I'm sure that a lot of the people in the community are genuine. But I'd like to get a feel for them, you know. It'd be nice to meet up with some people and get a feel for them. I'm sure there are people who I'm skeptical of, who I shouldn't be. I'm mindful of that. I'm not a judgmental prick who's looking to vilify other members of the community. I didn't mean to do that either. I think it's something that, I mean, we should all have a healthy skepticism about everyone in the space and be mindful that there's definitely infiltrators, but you don't want like a paranoid, toxic environment where everyone's worried about that either. So at the same time, like, I don't know, I don't want to collaborate with anyone just because I don't want anyone sabotaging the things that I want to build. So I think if you want to do anything, you got to do it yourself. If you want anything done right, you have to do it yourself. And learning to code with the AI assistants that I've been using, use Black Box AI a lot. It's helping me to figure out why things don't work. If I do something, explain to me why it doesn't work. So, I don't know, I feel like it's something where if you want to learn to build on your own, it's something that's being enabled with AI now. So, I want to learn to just do it on my own. I'm not going to reach out to anyone in the space to collaborate. I'm also not really going to talk a whole lot about what I'm building until I've done it, and then I'm going to release it. And I mean, there's certain things that I'll say that I'm interested in, Callie. Yeah, I'm gonna lone wolf this. I'm gonna work on my own. It's gonna take me a while, so I'm not really gonna announce anything. I'm just gonna drop it. There are certain things that I'll talk about that I'm interested in building. Largely because I want, if someone else is inspired by those ideas, for them to build it themselves. So, that's kind of where I'm at.
You only have to speak a few lines of wisdom on any mainstream chat show and everyone falls into dead silence like you're a dinosaur. You can be on the Bill Maher show, you can be on Oprah Winfrey, and you just happen to drop one line of anything that sounds like it means something, and everyone freezes like they've been tasered. There's the obligatory silence, change of subject, or you're a nut. Suspicion. People are suspicious of the wise. I'll tell you why they're suspicious of that. Because they have now removed themselves in their consciousness so far from their own authentic voice, from their own imagination body, from their own centers of intelligence. What is it? You have intellect, but you don't have intelligence? People can be intellectual, but not necessarily intelligent. It's very true. It's very accurate. But if you have removed yourself and you become so dependent on the teachers and the priest and the expert, that you've so divorced yourself from your own voice. I don't see. People have, in my eyes, have already done that. When you go to school and, there's no difference in the world to me. Then the type of acceptance of external authority that is already going on right now in the world and what might be coming tomorrow of a more severe nature. Because the most frightening machine of all is a man that has lost his humanity, lost his virtue. What you see in most people today is not virtue. What you see today is the performance of deeds, sort of by rote, like you've been trained. You take even a fantastic stallion, a wild stallion, but you train it and you whip it every hour of every day, you're going to have that stallion do the most idiotic things. They can make the elephant, the greatest of all creatures on the earth, jump through hoops and do the most ludicrous things. Killer whales, can you believe it? Have been trained to, pounce about in a swimming pool. Don't tell me then that the human being is not going to be able to, told to stand on his head. He's absolutely quite capable. He does it every day. He's in absolute escapism from the real. And so that person can become so far removed, so psychically he can become an inhabitant psychically of the periphery of being. If you want to use some philosophical jargon, he can